It's a night without a moon, 20,000 years ago. You're sitting close to your fire, close enough to feel it sting your face because the cold behind you is the kind that kills. The flames snap and hiss. Sparks climb into a black sky, and somewhere out past the edge of the light, something is watching you. You feel it before you see it. Then the fire shifts, and you catch them. Two eyes, low to the ground, glowing amber where the firelight touches them, floating in the dark like embers that refuse to die. You know exactly what they belong to. A wolf. Not the kind of wolf you might picture today. This is an Ice Age predator, and many of them were larger and more powerful than the wolves alive now. Jaws that can crack the leg bone of a bison, a creature that hunts the same deer you hunt, walks the same frozen valleys, and fears almost nothing on this earth. Except you. Your hand moves to the spear beside you, because this is not a friend. This is a rival. For thousands of years, your kind and its kind have been competitors, circling the same herds, bleeding over the same kills. If that animal decides you are weak tonight, it will not hesitate. So you have a choice to make, and it's the most important choice no one will ever remember making. Do you throw the spear, or do you throw the bone? There's a scrap of meat by your foot, gristle mostly, not worth much to you. You could toss it into the dark, toward those two burning eyes, and see what happens. It's insane. Every instinct you have is screaming that you feed a predator and you invite your own death. But you're hungry, and it's hungry, and something about the way it's just sitting there, watching, not attacking, not running, waiting. You pick up the bone, and you throw it. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then a shape slides forward out of the darkness, low and careful, muscles coiled to bolt. It snatches the meat, backs away, and swallows. And then, instead of leaving, it lies down, just outside the light, and it stays. That, right there, is the moment everything changed. Not just for you, for every human being who would ever live after you. But here's the truth, and it's stranger and slower than the story we love to tell. It almost certainly did not happen in a single night. There was no one brave hunter, no single magical campfire where an enemy became a friend. Scientists who study this believe it happened the way most enormous things happen. Quietly, gradually, across hundreds of generations, through thousands of small, almost invisible choices. And the dominant idea today is that, in a way, the wolves started it. Picture your camp, not as a cozy fire, but as something a wolf would notice from far away. A place that smells of food, bones with marrow still inside, scraps of hide, the waste of a hunt piling up at the edges of where humans live. To a hungry wolf, that is a feast that never runs out. Most wolves would never dare come close. Their fear of you is too strong. But in every wolf pack, there is variation. A few animals, just a few, are born a little bolder, a little calmer. Their fear switches on a little later than the others. And in this new world, next to humans, that tiny difference becomes everything. The terrified wolves stay back in the dark and go hungry, and many of them die. But the slightly braver wolf creeps in, eats the scraps, survives the winter, and has pups. Pups that inherit that same steady nerve. Scientists call the invisible line around a wild animal its flight distance. It's how close a threat can get before the animal runs. And what was really happening at the edge of that firelight, over unimaginable stretches of time, was that flight distance shrinking. Foot by foot, generation by generation. Fear, slowly losing to hunger and trust. Nobody planned it. It was evolution, unfolding right there in the glow of a human fire. How long ago did this begin? That's one of the great mysteries, and the honest answer is that we're still arguing about it. Studies of dog and wolf DNA suggest their family trees split somewhere between 27,000 and 40,000 years ago, deep in the last ice age. Which means dogs were becoming dogs long, long before humans planted a single seed or tamed any other animal. The dog was first, before the sheep, before the cow, before the farm, before civilization itself. Our very first partnership was with a predator. Now, back at your fire, imagine that wolf returning. Not once, but again and again, across seasons you'll never see. And imagine that with every generation, the animals that stay close to your fire are just a fraction less afraid than the ones before them. And then something remarkable begins to happen, something nobody could have predicted. The wolves start to change, not just on the inside, on the outside. We know this because of one of the most astonishing experiments in the history of science. In Siberia, starting in 1959, a Russian scientist named Dmitry Belyaev set out to test a wild idea. He took silver foxes, ordinary, snarling, fearful foxes, and he began to breed them for one single trait. Not size, not color, not obedience, just one thing. Which ones were the least afraid of a human hand? Every generation, he chose only the calmest foxes and let them have pups. The tame ones bred with the tame ones, and he waited to see what would happen. What happened stunned the world. Within just a handful of generations, the foxes didn't only become friendly. Their bodies started to transform. Their ears went floppy. Their tails began to curl upward and wag. Patches of white appeared in their fur. They started to whine and lick and search out human faces. Like dogs. He never selected for floppy ears. He never selected for a wagging tail. He selected for one thing: calmness, a quieter fear response, and everything else came tumbling out along with it, as if it had all been bundled together inside the animal, waiting. Scientists still debate exactly why this cascade happens, and some argue the story is more complicated than it first appeared. But the core lesson is breathtaking. When you change an animal's fear, you change the animal itself. The mind shifts first, and the body follows. And that is the real turning point in our story. It was never really about a campfire, or a thrown bone, or a single act of courage. It was about fear, quietly rewiring itself into trust, one generation at a time, until a wild predator became something the world had never seen before. So let's go back to the fire one last time. Seasons have passed. The wolves that linger near your people are calmer now, less like rivals and more like shadows that travel alongside you. And one cold morning, near the warmth of the coals, there is a litter of pups. One of them, clumsy and round-bellied and unafraid, stumbles toward a human child. And the child, instead of raising a hand in fear, reaches out. They look at each other, and here is the part that still gives scientists chills. Studies have found that when a human and a dog simply gaze into each other's eyes, both of their brains release a chemical called oxytocin. It's the same bonding hormone that floods through a mother and her newborn baby when they first lock eyes. Think about what that means. Somewhere across those thousands of years, two completely different species, a primate and a predator, wired themselves to love each other, to feel calm in each other's presence, to read each other's faces. A dog today can follow your pointing finger, understand your glance, sense your mood, in ways that even our closest ape relatives cannot. We didn't just tame the wolf, we met it halfway, and it met us. And how do we know this bond became something real, something deeper than a wolf simply raiding a garbage heap? because of what we've pulled out of the ground. For a long time, the oldest solid evidence of a true dog was around 11,000 years old. But in March of 2026, a major study published in the journal Nature rewrote the timeline. By reading DNA from ancient bones, scientists confirmed dogs living in what is now Turkey almost 16,000 years ago, and spread across Europe by 14,000 years ago. Real dogs, not wolves. Companions to Ice Age hunters at the frozen edge of the inhabited world. And it's not just their bones that tell the story, it's how they were treated. At some of these sites, dogs were not thrown away like scraps. They were buried, carefully, alongside humans. At one cave, the jawbones of dogs were deliberately pierced and marked, suggesting these animals held meaning even after death. And chemical traces in their bones show something even more tender. These early dogs were eating the same food their humans ate. They weren't just tolerated at the edge of the firelight. They were fed. They were kept. They were, in every way that matters, family. A predator that once waited in the dark, hoping for a scrap, was now being mourned when it died. So look down at your own dog tonight, if you have one. Watch it sleep by your feet, safe and warm and utterly unafraid of you. And understand what you're really looking at. You are looking at the descendant of the bravest wolf that ever lived. The one that crept a little closer to the fire. The one that traded a life of fear in the freezing dark for a place beside a human flame. Every dog that has ever licked a child's face, guarded a home, or waited by a door carries the echo of that first impossible act of trust. The turning point in this story was never a weapon. It was never a tool or a trap or a clever human trick. It was the moment two natural enemies, a primate and a predator, looked at each other across a fire and decided not to be afraid. This is the Raw Horizon. If you love uncovering the real, untold story of how we became who we are, hit that subscribe button because there is so much more of our ancient past still waiting in the dark. And tell me in the comments, if it were you sitting at that fire 20,000 years ago with those two amber eyes watching you from the shadows, would you have thrown the spear? Or would you have thrown the bone? See you in the next episode.